All right, so Bob, if you don't mind, just kind of tell us a little bit about your coaching philosophy and then a little bit about the coaches in your life that have impacted you on a personal level and then a professional level as well, getting you to the point that you are today.
Sure. I think my coaching philosophy is easy. That's create an environment where success is inevitable, where athletes have the opportunity to pursue the physical training, the psychological preparation, the emotional preparation that they need, and really develop as people to the point where they can be successful in competition and in life. That's really the same thing. So that's my deal. Try to create an environment where excellence is inevitable if you buy in. The coaches who influenced me as I came up, I was very fortunate to work with three different really high-profile coaches in my career. First was David Marsh. I coached with him at Las Vegas Gold Swim Team, and I learned a lot from David about motivation, about group dynamics, also about technique. He's always thinking new things and adding them in, and so that was a tremendous learning experience for me really early on in my career. Second coach I worked with was Paul Bergen. Worked with him in Napa, California, and he's famous for really developing a lot of international swimmers, I think 10 world record holders. His specialty was really training systems, periodization of training, how you organize your weekly training plan, how that fits into a yearly or quadrennial plan. So I got a lot of my planning from him. He was also very well known as a technician and really advanced technique in many, many ways, particularly in breaststroke. Finally, I worked with Murray Stevens at North Baltimore Aquatic Club, another coach who developed the best club in America as far as I'm concerned, and really developed a lot of Olympic gold medalists prior to me getting there. And Murray was really a combination of David and Paul. He was very good on the physiology side. He had a very distinct way of developing athletes physically, but he was also a very good motivator and very good at managing an athlete's career. And I think that was the third piece that Murray really helped me on was, what competitions do you go to? How frequently do you go to them? What events will they swim at these competitions? So when I put all three of them together, that's really where my system came from.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got a well-rounded view of the sport holistically from these three different individuals.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, could you go in a little more detail on planning for a quad?
Sure.
What training cycles look like?
Exactly.
What first year, second year, third year, fourth year, kind of how the big picture breaks down into more detail.
Exactly. Well, the thing about planning is the more further ahead you go in the future, the more general it is, right? So when you look at what you're going to do for 4 years, it's very hard to predict what an athlete will do, much less a group of athletes. But in general, what you're trying to do, and in my system, what I'm trying to do, is have a group of athletes who's preparing for, say, the Olympic trials or Olympic Games in 2020. I want them to be on their total A game in 2019. I want them to be so good in 2019 that they can be 20% less and still win the medals at the Olympic Games. And that's what we did with Michael in 2007. That's what we did with Allison in 2011. She actually improved a little bit. But, I think you then break it down to, well, how do you get there? Well, the year after Olympics tends to be fairly low-key for the pro athletes, but the developing athletes, it's one where you're really trying to move them up because there's some spaces for them at the international meets. The second year of the quad is where the most work is done. I think that's where the key kind of capacity building work that you're then going to go to more specific type training in the next few years is done. So the first 2 years are more of a general capacity building sort of period. The last two are much more of what I would call a utilization or more specific training periods. So that's the general model. Now when you work back from there, you're going to work into different seasons. For me, every year is split into really 2 seasons. I don't like to shave 3 times, so we shave twice. And then maybe if they have another meet at the end of the summer, we would play with that. But in general, we're looking at those as more mesocycles, and then we would break it down to what I think is the most important training unit is the weekly unit or microcycle. And that's really where I think the most organization is done and the most effective organization is done.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And then so talk about last year a little bit. You were in a really unique situation in the sense that you were taking over here at ASU in your first season as head coach, but also managing and coaching a stable of professional athletes.
Yeah.
So talk about that balance, talk about what that looked like for you, for the athletes here at ASU, and then the pros as well.
last year at ASU, the college team was kind of like a startup business, right? So I was just trying to figure out where we were, what we could do, accomplish something that would help us kind of get going, particularly recruit, which I think we did quite well. So that was really just, they're very different from the pro athletes who are kind of at the end of their career and very well developed. I've known them for years, and we're kind of doing some very specific things to prepare them for the Olympic trials. For me personally, it was a lot of time because we ran things separately. I'd read the college practice into pro practice, into college practice, into pro practice. So there were days I was 8 hours on deck, and that's kind of hard to do, but certainly worth it. I felt like we were successful in both regards. I think the college team came through with some things that we could feel good about and really have led into this year, which we feel really good about. And the pro group all did well. They pretty much accomplished their mission. As a matter of fact, I think statistically our group had better improvement, certainly from the trials of the games, but actually from their best times at the time than any other group, I think, in the U.S. So it was kind of good. We had somebody like David Nolan improve 5% in the 200 IM. I mean, most people improve a 0.5%. So to do that in your last meet or after your college career is over, that's pretty impressive.
And what was the communication like with some of those coaches, maybe working with a Jack, working with the coaches at Stanford, so that you're ensuring that these athletes are getting the most out of their training and can be as successful as possible?
Well, I think we always kind of have an open door for that. What I believe is when athletes come here to train with me, they want to do it my way, so that's kind of how we do it. Because that's all I know how to do. But I do, Jack and I are very similar. We have been friends forever. We've shared athletes forever. His athletes have been training with me at altitude since 2004. So, we are always on the same page. So Chase was very, very easy to make that transition. I do think that I try to get ideas for the other coaches, particularly on how these athletes are at the big meets, what helps them kind of get ready for that mentally. And then we kind of put them into our physical program and see how that works.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the mental side. What do you think the difference in the balance is between the mental side of being a truly great swimmer, a truly great athlete, coach, whatever that may be, and then the physical tools as well?
Well, it's a combination, but the higher up you go, the more mental it is. At the Olympic Games, it's 90% mental and 10% physical. At the the Pac-12s, it might be 50-50. I don't know. But, there definitely, every step you take higher, it's much more of a mental game than a physical game.
Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, you've had obviously a lot of success in your coaching career, a lot of things to reflect upon. So what's maybe one or two things that you're particularly proud of or you're going to take with you as you move on?
Well, I don't like to look back too much, but there's been some things with Michael. The thing I'm most proud of really is that in 2008, 2012, and again in 2016, our training program produced more medals for USA Swimming than any other place. So we did it in Michigan, we did it in Baltimore, we did it here. And by virtue of that, that means we produced the most medals for the United States of any sports program. So we're pretty successful on the Olympic level, and that's what I'm really proud about. There are a lot of things we need to accomplish here that I'd like to, and that's why I'm back in college swimming. I think there are a lot of great things to do, and we're working on that now.
Well, Bob, we certainly appreciate your time and look forward to a good afternoon workout, and wish you the best of luck moving forward this season.
Thanks for coming. We really appreciate you guys coming out.